Operation Wonder Weapon, Book 1, Chapter 2. Infiltrating Naples. Naples slept fitfully under the occupation. Barricades of sandbags and barbed wire choked the avenues, and Wehrmacht patrols tramped in pairs beneath the dim orange of blackout lamps. Trucks rattled down cobbled streets, loaded with crates pried from palaces and churches. John's squad ghosted through the alleys. Bicycles walked beside them to keep the chains from clattering. In civilian jackets, caps pulled low, they could pass for laborers at a glance, but not for long. Every shadow seemed to hold a watcher. Ray murmured,
"Whole city's garrisoned."
"Eyes down,"
John muttered. His voice was gravel, but steady.
"We're delivery men, nothing more."
They threaded through narrow lanes where laundry still hung between balconies despite the curfews. Somewhere above, a woman hissed a warning in Italian.
"Tedeschi!"
And moments later, a patrol rounded the corner, boots striking stone in cadence. The squad melted into a doorway. John kept his shoulders loose, one hand draped across the bicycle seat as if he had every right to be there. The Germans passed without more than a glance, their helmets glinting. Only when the sound of boots faded did John exhale. Nick shook his head.
"Feels like walking through a nest hoping the snakes are asleep."
"Don't step on one,"
Larry muttered, drawing his hat lower to cover his chilled ears. A hissed voice cut through the dark.
"Then, Maniganagdo. Stop, hands up."
Shapes detached from the alley walls, lean, hungry men with Sten guns and old Carcano rifles, faces shadowed under flat caps. One shoved Nick back against the stones. Another yanked Larry's cap off, searching his face in the lantern glow. Ray swore under his breath.
"Ah, heck."
John slowly raised his hands.
"We're Americans,"
he said in careful Italian. His accent carried mountain roots, rough but clear.
"Not Tedeschi, not spies."
The leader, a gaunt man with a black armband, stepped closer. His pistol never wavered.
"Americani, you walk our streets like thieves. Who are you truly?"
John locked eyes with him.
"Engineers, soldiers, sent to mark what the Germans are looting. If command knows where the art is going, we can get it back."
The leader's face stayed hard. John exhaled, then reached inside his jacket. Slowly, deliberately, he drew out his dog tags and held them forward. Metal winked in the dim orange light as the partisans snatched them, tilting them so the letters caught the glow.
"You sound Albini. This says John."
"My Christian name is Giovanni. I was born in an Alpine village, immigrated after the Great War."
The alley held its breath. Then the man barked something sharp in dialect, and rifles dipped, not lowered, but no longer aimed at hearts.
"If the Germans catch you in those jackets,"
the leader said, returning the chain,
"they'll shoot you as spies."
One of them, a boy not older than 17, muttered,
"And if you are enemies at Tedeschi, then you are friends."
The leader's expression didn't soften, but he jerked his chin.
"Calmignaro, we have eyes on the museum. We can give you cover. A fire, a crash, noise enough to turn their heads. But if you betray us, you died before the Germans kill you."
John nodded once with a smirk frown.
"Fair bargain?"
The squad ghosted through alleys slick with shadow, keeping to broken walls and craters where the lamplight didn't reach. Naples smelled of smoke, the acrid bite of spent gunpowder, and the faint tang of the sea. They moved single file until John raised a hand, halting them near the row of trucks lined along the piazza. Ahead lay the Museo Archeologico, its facade half dark, trucks idling. Crates were being loaded in silence, the work brisk and merciless. A handful of SS men checked manifests under lantern light. John crouched them into the shadows of a side street.
"That's our target. We need papers, shipping lists, labels, wherever they don't notice missing. Then we get out clean."
A sudden commotion erupted across the piazza. Bottles shattering, shouts, then the bloom of a fire racing up a cart of hay. Germans scrambled, cursing, as smoke choked the air. The vehicles were half loaded, but the tailgates were open, and manifests flapped against clipboards in the night air.
Paperwork,
John mouthed, jerking his chin. Ray grinned, already easing toward the shadows. Larry followed, tugging Nick along. They slid under the first truck like cats, the scent of diesel thick in their noses. Larry produced a knife, slipping the twine off a crate. Inside, ceramics, half wrapped in straw. Nick carefully pulled the clipboard, squinting to read by the faint glow of blackout lamps. He mouthed silently, porcelain, palazzo shipment, rail transfer north. John gestured to get their attention. He mouthed,
copy it.
He kept an eye on the Germans trying to deal with fire and running after the rebels. Nick slid a stub of pencil from his pocket and began to scratch notes onto his canteen label. Another truck, paintings rolled in tubes, bound for Berlin. Another, bronze fittings, jewelry, reliquaries. Every crate numbered, every theft made orderly. They hurried into an alley, clutching copied scraps.
Jackals are cataloging it like postmen.
Yeah, postman from Hades.
John's lips pursed.
That tells the brass where everything is headed, but I want eyes inside, see if there is time for our armies to intercept before the place is stripped bare, or if we're too late.
Then I am coming with you.
The voice snapped out of the dark. The squad spun, weapons half raised as the resistance leaders stepped from the shadows. John lifted a hand, signaling them down.
You may not find much left, but if there is anything we can save, I'd rather do it now than before your armies come, which would be weeks from now.
John measured him. Opportunist? Patriot? Hard to tell, but saying no would gain nothing.
Stay close,
John said at last,
and leave no trace we were ever here.
Blazing fog. The steel canister hissed as technicians opened its valves. White vapor poured forth, coiling across the stone floor like a living tide. Within minutes, the archive was swallowed in the spectral fog, thick, cold, damp against the skin.
Lights,
Ryder murmured. The overhead bulbs clicked off one by one, plunging the hall into near blackness. The only glow came from the fog itself, faintly pearled by the city's dim light, seeping through cracks and boarded windows. The men stood silent, breath frosting faintly in the chill. Ryder raised a gloved hand.
observe.
At first there was nothing. Then a faint spark shivered above a reliquary, firefly bright. Another flickered on a bronze statuette. Soon the fog was alive with motes, drifting like embers caught in invisible currents. One of the junior officers breathed.
It works.
Of course it works.
Ryder said sharply, though his eyes gleamed with satisfaction. He nodded to a technician carrying a tray.
Collect every object showing emission, even silk ones. Every scrap counts.
The man hesitated. For the Wand, Herr Oberführer? A smile, thin and humorless.
Ja, the wand will drink them all, drop by drop. Do not question. Harvest.
The tray filled quickly with trinkets and charms, each glittering faintly like dying stars. The officers jotted measurements, muttering about CR bands and ER bands. Then the row of hand mirrors began to glow. At first, pale and indistinct, but one suddenly flared. Its surface shuddered like water struck by lightning, colors rippling gold. The fog around it ignited into a halo of sparks. The entire chamber gasped. Ryder stepped forward, his reflection splintered across the shining glass. His voice was reverent.
The Spiegel der Bestia. Centuries of whispers, now in our grasp. With this, we do not simply observe. We command sight itself.
He turned sharply.
Seal it, triple guard. The Allies must never know it exists.
Technicians scrambled, wrapping the mirror as though it were volatile. The mission had gone off without a hitch, until the archive door creaked open at the far end. The museum's great front doors groaned faintly as John eased them open. The squad slipped inside, boots whispering across marble worn by centuries of visitors and gouged by recent activities. Their rifles stayed hidden beneath civilian coats, but their eyes swept every corner. The echo inside was wrong, too empty. Where once statues had towered and galleries overflowed with canvases, only pale rectangles of dust remained on the walls. Wooden crates and straw scraps littered the floor like shed skins. The Germans had been thorough. Ray muttered under his breath.
Grave robbers?
Nick clicked his tongue.
And they didn't leave a bone.
Nero cursed under his breath. John stood still, staring at the blank walls. He could see the ghosts of frescoes, the outlines of frames. His hand brushed the cold stone column beside him.
It isn't just what they've taken,
he said softly.
It's what they've tried to steal from the soul of this place. You can strip away the statues and the canvases, but you can't strip away Italy. Not while her people breathe and remember.
The others fell quiet. For a heartbeat, the silence of the gutted museum pressed on them like a shroud. Larry finally cleared his throat.
Sir, if it's all gone, what's left for us?
The resistance leader's eyes swept the gallery again, landing on a heavy oak door at the far end of the hall. He frowned.
They cleared the floors, but maybe they're still working on the archives.
John translated, then led them across the gallery. John pushed on the door, and it gave. Then the sound of ripping tape from the inside.
Why would it be taped from the inside? How would you do that?
That's strange.
John drew his knife and slid the blade through the narrow crack. The tape parted with a soft rip. John pressed his palm flat against the wood, then glanced over his shoulder.
Eyes sharp. There's something odd happening in there.
The hinges groaned as John pushed the door inward, and a cool fog rolled out. Mildew, stone, and something acrid beneath. They took a few cautious steps inside, their eyes adjusting to the increased blackness. John thought he saw figures in the dark. A trap? Ryder turned and flatly but irritably rebuked the new arrival.
Close the door, you're letting the fog out.
But then the mist itself convulsed. Sparks erupted around the figure, detonating into white-blue fire until the chamber blazed like a cathedral of lightning. The SS reeled back, shielding their eyes. Every relic seemed dim beside the brilliance of the soldier. Ryder's throat worked.
Mein Gut, not an object, a man.
He is brought to Zanzibar.
A junior officer stammered. His gaze darted to the other strangers now caught in the blaze. 5 men, their rifles unmistakably American. 1 luminous, 3 glimmered faintly like the dying trinkets. The last 3 dull as stone. Ryder thrust his arm forward, eyes alight.
Secure him. No bullets, alive.
John blinked against the afterimage. As his vision cleared, he saw Nazis all around, just as startled as he was. Then came the shock. Blue fire licking his own arms, crawling like furnace flames across his body. He swiped at his sleeves in alarm, but there was no heat or pain. The fabric unsinged. The mist thinned, his radiance dimming with it. German shouts rose in panic.
Fall back!
John roared, rifle snapping to his shoulder. He raked the archive with fire, muzzle flash tearing the fog. Stone rang with ricochets. Several men dropped. Others dove for cover. Ryder reeled back as gunfire thundered through the fog. Stone chips spat from the walls, sparks flashing where bullets struck metal and crates. His men shouted, ducking for cover. Ryder smoothly pivoted behind a shelf while keeping his gaze fixed. He stood tall in the storm, eyes locked on the blazing figure fleeing through the door.
Nein!
His roar cut above the gunfire.
Alive! Do not damage him!
One soldier hesitated at the order and was cut down in the crossfire. Another fired after the retreating Americans. Ryder struck the rifle down.
I said alive!
For a heartbeat, the hall was chaos. Fog torn by muzzle flash, relics clattering from tables, the acrid sting of cordite filling the air. Then the Americans vanished into the outer gallery, their footsteps fading into the dark. Ryder stood rigid, breath sharp in his throat, awe warring in his eyes.
He burns brighter than daylight.
He marveled.
We cannot proceed without him.
Escape,
Move!
John bellowed. They tore through the doorway, boots hammering marble, their shadows thrown long by the muzzle flash behind them. Germans shouted, scrambling to organize pursuit. Into the grand hall, past empty plinths and pale rectangles of dust, where paintings once hung, and then out into the Neapolitan night. The piazza began to erupt with alarm. Searchlights arced across facades. Truck engines roared awake. Somewhere, a whistle shrilled.
Left.
John hissed, and they darted into an alley, shadows clinging to walls slick with mildew. They hurdled barrels, ducked beneath laundry lines, slipping between stone houses like foxes through a hen yard. A truck full of men rumbled past the mouth of the alley. Nero found an open cellar and directed them inside. They froze. Breath strangled in their throats. Boots thundered down the street above them, a patrol shouting in clipped German. Corporal Tommy muttered, holding a hand on his side.
Feels like every rat in Naples just woke up.
Keep low.
John whispered. They remerged from the cellar and moved down another path. They slid into a bomb crater, clambered out the far side, and melted into another warren of alleys. Once, a dog barked and lunged, teeth snapping. Another time, a soldier leaned from a truck to light a cigarette, the flare casting the Americans into silhouette. They pressed flat to a wall, praying the soldier didn't notice. Only when the sound of trucks had faded did John allow them to pause in the ruin of a half-collapsed church. The nave was open to the sky, stars cold above. Every man was heaving for breath, hearts still hammering. Larry leaned against a pillar and spat.
My gosh, nearly didn't walk out of there.
Tommy began checking his side more thoroughly. John kept his voice low but steady.
But we did, and we keep moving until Maples is behind us.
Whoa.
Nick waved his arms, speaking what everyone was thinking.
Are we not going to talk about what just happened? What was that blue fire?
Are you burned?
Ray asked quickly.
What was that mist?
Sammy muttered.
Those guys didn't look like they were expecting us.
Nero's voice cut in, accented but clear.
What happened back there?
John's eyes darted between the men as they fired off their questions. His lips thinned, and he ran a hand through his hair before resetting his hat.
I don't know. Must have been a chemical reaction in the mist.
I've taken chemistry.
Larry cut in, eyes still sharp with the memory.
Ether burns blue. Same with methanol. Could be they had vapors in that fog.
Nick snorted.
Then why did we all go up like torches? I was right there with him.
Larry hesitated, chewing his lip.
True, and we'd have smelled it. Ether stinks. Plus, his jacket isn't scorched.
Static?
Tommy offered, half-hearted.
Like St. Elmo's fire? I heard sailors talk about it. Blue glow on ship meths in storms.
Larry shook his head.
That's corona discharge. Cold light. Conditions weren't right.
Ray spoke quietly, almost reluctant.
It wasn't just fire. It looked like it came from you.
A silence hung in the air. John finally exhaled through his nose, tone clipped but calm.
Fog plays tricks. Static, fear, mix it all together, and you see what you expect to see. What matters is we're still breathing. That's miracle enough. We cannot test our luck. We need to move.
He briefly said as much to Nero, thanked him for his help, shaking hands, then tromped off before they could resume their debate. Nick muttered,
Miracle indeed.
His tone edged with doubt. Private Sammy leaned closer to Ray, voice low so John wouldn't hear.
Cap didn't look as surprised as you'd think he'd be.
Nero gave the squad a parting salute before melting back into the shadows. The men fell into uneasy quiet, boots crunching on gravel too loud for their liking. None pushed further, but none forgot the blue fire either. The archive still reeked of ozone and scorched dust. Technicians moved quietly, sweeping debris to the sides to clear the walkway. At the center, Ryder stood at the field telephone, his posture elegant and relaxed. The line crackled. A clipped voice answered, cold and precise. Ryder straightened.
Air Rexvial, we achieved contact tonight with something unprecedented. A very rich source.
A pause.
Go on.
And then, he entered the chamber and his CR emissions went off our current scales.
On the other end, the silence stretched.
A sound?
No.
Ryder said, calm, definite.
His surprise was genuine. He lacked control, yet he carries energy beyond even the speaking mere. 3 of his men showed Joe's signatures. Street did not.
Proximity effects, then?
Unlikely. If civil exposure were sufficient, I myself would carry such residue by now. I do not. Neither did the other 3.
The line crackled with a slow intake of breath.
And you are certain?
Ryder's tone never wavered.
He is essential.
The Reichsführer's reply came cold and precise.
This man will be taken alive. I will divert resources.
Ryder inclined his head, though unseen.
Understood.
The night was long behind them, but dawn brought no relief. Their legs were lead, lungs raw, and the gravel roads out of Naples stretched like punishment. With the bikes lost, every mile felt stolen. Even John, who seemed tireless by habit, dragged his boots in the dust.
Captain.
Tommy's voice cracked. He slowed, hand pressed against his side. For hours he had brushed off the hitch in his gait, but now he sagged against a half-collapsed wall.
I didn't want to, but I think I caught one.
The squad froze. John crouched beside him, peeling away the blood-stiffened fabric of his shirt. A crease of red tracked across his ribs, a grazing shot, deep enough to bleed hard, but not enough to kill if tended. Relief mingled with the sour taste of frustration in John's throat.
Okay, I should have said something sooner,
Nick muttered, though his hands were already fishing out the sulfa powder.
Hold still,
John ordered softly. He cleaned the wound with water, the faint reek of cordite still clinging to Tommy's skin. The boy winced, but clenched his teeth to keep quiet. The bandage went on tight. When it was done, John leaned back on his haunches, wiping bloody hands on his coat. The others thought his silence was fatigue, but his thoughts churned nervously. He stared at one hand as if he could see through it. That mist, those sparks, the blue fire. It wasn't coincidence, and he knew it. If he admitted it to others, command would seize on it, dissect it, demand answers he didn't want to give. And if he kept silent, was he protecting himself or hiding a threat to his men? He didn't know yet, and worse, whatever the Nazis had been working on, he was connected, and they wanted him alive. John shouldered his pack.
We move. Slow, quiet, just far enough to get beyond their sweep.
Captured. The next morning the squad trudged single file along the narrow farm road, flanked by low stone walls and silhouettes of olive trees against the gray of dusk. Every man's head sagged with hunger and exhaustion, boots dragging like weights. John grunted as he tripped on Ray's boot again. Ray slowed and panted.
I'm sorry, Cap.
You don't need to keep apologizing.
John said breathlessly, bending and grabbing the shoe.
This kind of thing happens.
Ray put it on again.
I've tried everything. Wire, belts, rivets, safety pins, even that new duct tape.
He froze. A rustle. Shadows unfolded from the roadside, helmets, rifles glinting in the dim light. A second squad appeared behind them. 12, Maybe 15 Germans, barrels leveled.
Runs over,
Nick muttered, his voice thin with fatigue. John lowered his rifle to the ground, then raised his hands. Calm, but alert. The squad stood rigid, blood pounding in their ears. Then, a rumble. A rising whine. Engines. Sirens. Every head snapped skyward. Flak bloomed over Naples, thunder shaking the ground.
Relax.
A German said to his companion.
If you hear it, it's not for you. It's the ones you don't hear that.
Nick and Larry dropped to a knee, rifles chattering wild bursts. Sparks ricocheted from stone. Shouts split the air. Ray shoved Sammy into a ditch, diving after him. Chaos swallowed the road. John turned to bolt, then agony ripped through his thigh. His leg buckled, dumping him in the gravel. He clawed upward, teeth bared, but a rifle butt smashed him down.
Go!
He roared.
That's an order.
The squad hesitated, horror in their eyes, but the Germans surged forward, emboldened by their prize. Enemy boots pinned his arms. Rifle stocks cracked across his shoulders. Blood darkened his trousers as German hands dragged him upright. The bombs fell closer, the earth trembling. Too concerned with their captive, the Germans let the rest vanish into the olive grove. The ambush scattered into chaos, but John's world narrowed to the throbbing wound in his thigh and the hands dragging him off the road. Gunfire rattled through the olive grove, fading beneath the drone of the air raid. Germans dumped him in a ditch where medics worked by flashlight, hurried, indifferent. Rough hands cut his trouser leg. One soldier pinned him down while another dug with forceps. John bit his cheek, grunting as metal scraped bone. A ragged bandage, a shot of morphine, and the pain shrank to a dull throb. They hauled him into a truck. Canvas closed around him. The air stank of fuel and blood. Every jolt of the mountain road hammered his leg. He drifted in and out of fevered sleep. German voices, Italian curses, the engine's endless growl. Through the haze he clung to thoughts of his squad. Nick dragging Sammy through trees, Larry snapping orders. They'd survive. They had to. At dawn, the truck lurched to a stop. Canvas flaps parted, revealing a pale fortress. Castel del Monte, stark and octagonal against the mist. Soldiers dragged him inside. Rain pattered his face. The courtyard rang with boots and clipped commands beneath SS banners flapping blood red against ancient stone. A medic cleaned and stitched his wound with brutal efficiency. Carbolic burned. Thread bit through flesh. Bruises mottled his ribs, grime his skin. A week's beard shadowed his jaw, hardening his face into something older, something carved for war. All the while, Ryder stood in the shadows. No barked orders, no theatrics. Just watching. His hands folded behind his back, expression composed, eyes pale and unblinking. When the medic finished, Ryder stepped closer, studying John as one might study an artifact pulled from the earth. He noted the ordinary details, the gaunt face, the calloused hands, the way John's chest rose evenly despite exhaustion. No glow, no aura, no sign at all of the brilliance that had erupted in the archive. He lingered, silent, patient. The castle groaned faintly around them, wind whispering through arrow slits. At last Ryder inclined his head, almost a bow, his voice low and measured.
So ordinary,
he murmured.
And yet singular.
John stirred, lifting heavy eyes toward the voice, but Ryder had already withdrawn into the dark, leaving only the faint sound of boots receding down the stone corridor. Pilgrim's badge. The farmhouse smelled of smoke and rosemary. The little lantern sputtered against the night air, casting the old woman in a wavering glow. She had already pulled a rough loaf from her oven, a pot of beans, and a heel of cheese, pressing food into their hands without waiting for barter. When she saw the state of John's boys entering her yard, she brought them in without a word. Nick's eyes were rimmed red. Ray hunched on the stool, silent but shaking with tears. Larry stared at the table, fists balled, knuckles white. For a long while, the only sound was chewing. They hadn't eaten in more than a day. Hunger won out over grief. But when the first edge of starvation dulled, silence pressed heavier. Nick scrubbed at his face with both hands.
He never left us behind, not once. And when he needed us, we just...
His voice broke. Ray slammed a fist down on the table.
We're cowards. Should have fought till the last bullet.
Stop.
Larry's voice was low, but firm. His thin frame leaned forward.
We faced a dozen rifles, maybe more, and bombs falling on top of us. That wasn't failure. That was survival.
But the captain...
Ray rasped. Larry cut him off gently.
He ordered us to run. Don't turn obedience into shame.
The old woman's grandchildren whispered to each other, then tried halting English. You... sad? Captain... Morto? Nick swallowed hard.
Captured.
He mimed wrists bound.
Maybe alive.
His voice wavered.
We don't know.
He gave an exaggerated shrug. The woman's dark eyes studied them. Soft but sharp, she murmured to the children, who translated, "You bring papers, but no paintings." Ray shook his head.
The museum was empty. Nothing left. Not for us to save.
Their despair hung heavy in the small kitchen. The woman's lined face furrowed. Then she rose without a word. Her kerchief trailed as she shuffled into the back room. They heard the scrape of wood, the creak of an old chest. When she returned, her hands cupped something wrapped in linen. She laid it on the table and unwrapped the cloth. Inside lay a small pewter badge, darkened with age, a pilgrim's token, stamped with the scallop shell of Santiago. "My father's father," she said slowly, letting her grandchildren shape the words into English. "From long ago, he walked far, many miles, hard road, war, sickness, but he come home." Her finger touched the badge. "This is not gold, not painting, not statue, but it is hope. Hope that one can endure and return." The soldiers bent closer. Even worn and simple, the little badge seemed to hum with weight. History, faith pressed into metal. She looked each of them in the eyes. Italia is not only things in glass rooms. Italia is people, like you, who fight for what is right. She pressed the badge toward him and said in her own little quavering voice, "Take, take." Ray's eyes brimmed. Nick bit his lip. Ray reached out and reverently closed the linen back over the badge. He nodded to her and took her hand in both of his in gratitude. Larry spoke for them all.
We'll take it to our colonel. He'll know what to do.
The woman nodded and spoke through the grandchild again. "You find your captain?" The men exchanged glances across the small table. Exhaustion etched deep, but resolve sharper still. Ray whispered,
We'll finish the mission, then we'll get him back, no matter what it takes.
The others nodded without hesitation. The barn smelled of hay and dust. Flies droned lazily in the rafters while the squad lay sprawled across straw piles, boots half off, bandages spotted dark. They had eaten just enough bread and cheese to quiet the growl in their stomachs. Then collapsed. For hours they drifted in a shallow, restless doze, until the night broke with the thud of artillery rolling like thunder over the hills. Nick stirred, blinking blearily.
You hear that?
Larry sat up, his silhouette framed in the slatted moonlight.
Not thunder, guns.
By morning, the sound hadn't stopped. Now it was layered with the drone of aircraft, and faint but rising, the bellows of church towers carried on the wind. Refugees hurried along the road beyond the farm. Women tugging children, men pulling carts loaded with blankets. The old woman's grandchildren rushed in, speaking fast Italian. They say, "Naples," the eldest managed in halting English. "Americani," pushing. "Germans," running. The squad exchanged hollow looks. They could barely stand, but none of them wanted to be left behind. Ray rubbed his blistered foot, then shoved it back into his boot with a hiss.
If our boys are that close, we ain't rotting in a barn.
The old woman pressed food into their hands once more. She gave them kisses on their dirty cheeks. Her ever-present frown had turned to a smile from the news. The granddaughter translated again. She says, "Your fight is her fight. You have returned hope to Italy." The men bowed their heads. Nick swallowed hard.
We'll see it delivered.
He patted his pocket where the badge was safely stowed. The march was slow, every step grinding, but within hours they stumbled upon an American column pushing north, jeeps, half-tracks, tanks clattering over the road, infantry tramping alongside. Dust billowed, diesel choked the air.
Holy, look!
Sammy shouted, flagging them down. An MP, a military policeman, blinked at the ragged engineers limping from the olive groves.
"What the devil? You boys deserters?"
No, sir,
Larry croaked.
Engineers, special assignment.
The sight of their paperwork and dogged condition was enough. Within minutes, they were hoisted into the back of a truck, riding with the surge of the advance. Naples was chaos. The harbor still smoldered, blocks of the city blackened and smoking. But everywhere, church bells rang. Civilians poured into the streets waving handkerchiefs, some weeping, some laughing. The squad barely registered it, stiff in the truck bed, half asleep as they jolted through the liberated city. They were brought not to a tent, but to a commandeered villa overlooking the bay. Inside, the air was cooler, taut with discipline. Maps covered the walls, phones rang, staff officers murmured over reports. And there was Conti. He stood at a table strewn with files, his suit pressed, his dark eyes sharp as he looked up at them.
"You have returned."
His gaze flicked over their battered state, then softened.
"See it."
They did, gratefully. One by one they produced what they had salvaged, papers, notes. Then Nick, almost reverently, placed the pilgrim's badge on the table. The room stilled. Conti lifted it, turning it gently in his hand. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, in a voice low and steady, almost a reverent whisper,
"Yes, this is a pilgrim's token, centuries old. A man pinned it to his cloak when he set out for Rome or Santiago. His proof of faith and endurance. Few survive, and if this one endured like Italy herself, wounded, stripped, plundered, but not the rest."
He looked at them, and in his eyes was gratitude that words could not cover.
"Gentlemen, what you carried here is more than metal. It is a voice from the past telling us not to yield. You have done what no battalion could."
The squad sat straighter, pride warming their fatigue, but Ray blurted what was on all their minds.
What about Captain Zimmerland? They took him.
The air tightened. An officer at Conti's side shifted uneasily.
"We know the Germans are retreating north with prisoners. Locations are unclear. He may have been moved inland, probably through a camp."
Another quipped,
"If they did, he's already reorganized the place and drafted blueprints for escape tunnels."
The squad exchanged uneasy glances. Nick's mouth worked as if to say more, but Larry shot him a quick look, a tiny shake of the head. Not here. Not now. Conti closed his hand around the badge, then met their eyes one by one.
Do not call yourselves failures. You faced overwhelming force, and still you brought back Italy a piece of her soul. As for your captain, if he lives, he will endure. Men like him do not vanish easily.
The words were not a promise, but they carried enough weight to steady the squad's resolve. They left the villa bruised, fed, still aching with loss, but with their mission fulfilled. As they crossed the courtyard, Nick muttered to Larry,
"Why didn't we tell them about the blue fire?"
Larry's gaze stayed ahead.
Because John didn't want to either. He's an honest man. If it was meant to be known, he'd have said it himself. Till he chooses otherwise, we keep it to ourselves.
Nick chewed that over as they ducked into their designated tent, the weight of silence heavier than any pack. Interrogation. Castel del Monte, October. The chamber was cold, the air heavy with chalk dust and assorted chemicals, but mostly John smelled his unwashed body. He sat strapped to an oak chair, stitched thigh throbbing under the bandages. The lab had tables everywhere, loaded with every artifact imaginable, mostly small, tags dangling from them, wobbling or twirling in the drafty room. The arched ceiling was vaulted and suspended by ancient oak beams. The stone walls showed little remnants of the bright white wash that used to brighten medieval interiors. Only the soot-darkened sandstone remained, leaving the room dark and unwelcoming. Dr. Klaus Ryder entered without fanfare. Khakis pressed, white shirt rolled at the sleeves, a leather notebook under his arm. To John, he might have been a field academic, not an SS Oberfuhrer. All his movements were slow and methodical, no rush or urgency. He pulled out a chair and sat opposite John, folding his hands neatly atop the notebook. He regarded John for a long time, pale blue eyes unblinking. John kept his eyes locked on the floor.
Zimmermann,
he spoke in German. The name hung in the vaulted space.
A curious name. Means carpenter. Did you come from craftsman?
John's gaze stayed fixed. Ryder switched to Italian, the vowels soft, deliberate.
Names change when they cross oceans. Giovanni, perhaps.
He watched carefully, the slight change in breathing, more slow and deliberate. Not much, but enough. At last, Ryder tried English. John's dog tag scraping on the notebook.
John Zimmermann, Captain, Corps of Engineers.
His voice was gentle, professorial.
A soldier and a family man. I saw the ring.
John's eyes began slowly tracing the mortar between the diamond floor tiles. Be calm, be unreadable.
You have children, perhaps.
Ryder's mouth curved, not a smile, not a frown.
You have known pain, I think.
He continued softly.
From the Great War, a tragedy burned into you long after this conflict.
He rose and drifted toward a cluttered table, his fingers brushing the tag of a candelabra until it spun lazily.
And now you burn again, not like ether or corona. Something else.
John finally had to blink, but he willed himself still. Ryder's tone never changed.
You know it. You are aware of what you are. Did this power find you? Or did you find it?
The silence stretched, Ryder perfectly comfortable in it.
Was it an object?
He waited.
Or a person?
John shifted, trying to ease the pain of his saddle sores, causing the leather straps to creak. The faintest motion, and Ryder saw it.
What did you receive from them? Healing? Revenge? Knowledge? Something else, isn't it? Something deeply personal, yeah?
He paused, as if merely thinking aloud.
It always begins with something personal. A wound, a loss. I bet it was something you wished undone.
His phrasing was deliberate, not a question, an invitation to correct him. John stayed motionless. Silence was safety, Silence was the only weapon left. Instead, Ryder rose, tucking the notebook under his arm. He circled John once, slow, like an archaeologist walking around a statue just pulled from the earth. His hand brushed the back of the chair, not touching John, but close enough to claim the space.
As you've seen, I've explored many interesting things, things touched with power. The one thing I have never encountered is a mortal touched with so much power. That is why you are interesting. Not a relic, an enigma.
He monitored John as his hand lingered on the chair.
It is interesting because the bodies of human beings cannot sustain such power. This power cannot linger in mortal flesh, nor can it regenerate it. But you do both.
John listened. No strong reaction. This was not news to him.
I doubt you noticed. 3 of your companions showed slight traces as well. Were you aware?
John's head ever so slightly tipped back as the revelation hit.
I will find the origin. All phenomena have sources. Stones traced to mountains, rivers to springs. You to something greater still.
He came to a stop before John again.
The truth will emerge, Captain. It always does.
He inclined his head, almost polite, and stepped back into the shadows. Only after the door closed did John exhale, heart hammering, his fingers tightening against the straps to stop the tremor that wanted to creep into them. Outside, Ryder spoke to an aide in the same even tone he had used inside.
Draft records set for Giovanni Zimmerman. Great War Service, likely age 17 to 23. Shipping records. Immigration to America after the war. Black hair, blue eyes, over 6 foot. His family were likely craftsmen. Here's our engineer. There will be education records. Reach out to our contacts across the Atlantic. I want his family, his schooling, genealogy, occupation, all of it.
The aide hesitated.
Sir, that may be difficult. The Allies have Naples.
Ryder regarded him with unblinking calm.
Difficult, but not impossible. We have people that will get it done.
Rescue mission. Morning light slanted pale across the camp. The villa's courtyard rang with clatter, boots, buckets, shouted orders. Inside the adjoining barracks, the squad was scattered among rows of cots and wash basins, the air thick with soap, damp wool, and boiled coffee. Ray groaned contentedly from his basin, sluicing water over his head.
First proper wash since Sicily. I could die happy.
Nick tugged a comb through his wet hair, scowling.
Don't say that. John's out there, maybe freezing, starving, who knows what. We can't.
He broke off, jaw tight. Larry sat cross-legged on his cot, running an oily rag down the barrel of his rifle. His motions were precise, almost meditative.
The Germans will keep him alive. Officers are valuable in POW camps. They'll want him working, if nothing else.
Nick shot him a look.
That's what worries me. He lit up like a bonfire, Larry. You saw it, they saw it. You think they'll just toss him behind wire with the other prisoners?
Ray shook his head, droplets scattering.
Heck, I don't know what I was looking at. Maybe it was a trick of the fog. Static, fear.
Larry paused, rag motionless on the barrel.
No trick. I've seen St. Elmo's fire. I've mixed chemicals that burn blue. This was neither. The way they scrambled for him...
He stopped, tightening the bolt with a click.
No, they took him for a reason. They didn't even care about us.
A silence settled among them, punctuated only by the hiss of coffee poured into tin mugs. Nick finally muttered,
So what then? If command pushes north, how the heck do we even find him?
Larry looked up, his dark eyes steady.
We'll find a way. If he's alive, John will endure.
Nick stared into his mug, the steam curling like smoke.
Endure is not the same as escape.
The squad fell quiet again. Outside, trucks revved, orders barked, and the war pressed on, relentless, impatient. The sun was already dipping low when the squad drifted outside, their gear cleaned, bellies full, bodies a little less ragged. Trucks were loading in the square, columns of men already moving north. The war did not wait. Nick kicked at a stone, watching it skitter across the cobbles.
That's it, then. They'll roll on and John will vanish in the dust.
A voice spoke from the shadows of a ruined archway.
Perhaps not.
They spun, hands darting to rifles, until two figures stepped into the amber light. At the front was the gaunt, flint-eyed man, Nero. Beside him stood a younger partisan with a British scarf wrapped around his neck. Larry exhaled.
Jays, you walk like a ghost.
Nero ignored the jab, speaking quickly in Italian. The younger man translated smoothly.
He says he brings the news. Whispers only, but enough.
Nick's brow creased.
And you are?
The newcomer dipped his head.
Luca, I speak English for ourselves. Your captain handled Nero's tongue before.
He spread his hands.
Now it falls to me.
Nero continued in low, urgent Italian. Luca's face tightened as he rendered the words.
A high-priority prisoner was taken. The Germans move him east, not to a camp, to a fortress.
Nick's heart jolted.
A fortress?
Castel del Monte.
Luca translated as Nero spoke the name.
An old crown of stone in the hills. The SS brought someone there, a man who glowed with fire.
The squad exchanged sharp looks. No one spoke of the fog in Naples, but every man remembered. Ray's voice was tight.
How does he know?
Nero tapped his temple, muttering a sharp phrase. Luca gave a grim half-smile.
He listens. The German soldiers speak freely when they think the locals don't understand. And our network hears things no one should.
Nero stepped closer, lowering his tone. Luca translated.
He appreciates what you tried to do, so he came himself. If you want your captain back, that is where you must look.
Larry's jaw set.
And when we tell command, they'll never peel us off the line to chase a rumor.
Nero answered in Italian, voice flat as stone. Luca looked each of them in the eye.
He says, do what you must, but don't wait too long. Fortresses are not prisons, they are vaults. What goes in?
He swallowed.
Serfdom comes out.
Nero melted back into the gloom, Luca with him, as silently as they had appeared. The squad stood frozen, hearts pounding. Nick swallowed hard.
Well, there's our answer.
Larry looked north, where the trucks rumbled and the sky burned with sunset.
Not an answer,
he said grimly.
A choice.
The command tent shivered with each rumble of artillery in the distance. Maps lay pinned under coffee cups, radios crackled with clipped voices, and officers hurried in and out, their faces pale in the lamplight. The squad stood at attention before their superior, Major Ellison, his jacket dusty, his eyes ringed with fatigue. He looked them over, lingering on the empty space where John should have been. He and John had a good rapport, and his absence was felt. Ray was the first to speak.
Sir, we think we know where Captain Zimmerman's been taken.
That got Ellison's attention. His gaze sharpened.
You think?
Larry stepped forward, voice steady.
The partisans, they've been helping us since Naples. One of them swears the SS moved a special prisoner east to a place called Castel del Monte. Old fortress, sir. They strongly believe it was him.
Nick swallowed.
That's gotta be him. They wanted him alive.
Ellison leaned back, folding his arms. For a long moment, the war noise outside filled the silence. Finally, he sighed.
Zimmerman. Darn fine officer. Too fine. I can't deny I thought there was something about him, the way men steadied under his command.
He shook his head, looking down at the map.
But you boys know well as I do, our orders are to keep pressure north. Every hour we give the Germans is another trench, another kill zone. Command won't peel soldiers off to chase a rumor.
Ray's fists clenched.
So we just leave him?
Ellison's jaw worked, and for a moment he looked older than the war. Then he leaned forward, lowering his voice.
No, we don't leave men like Zimmerman.
He pulled a pad from the desk, scribbling quickly.
Foggia base is screaming for engineers. Communications down, supply hangars in chaos. I'll mark you as reassigned to assist.
He tore off the sheet, stamped it, and slid it across.
As long as you report back breathing, I'll answer for it.
The boys exchanged stunned glances. Ellison wasn't finished.
You'll need transport. Yesterday, I saw a motorbike with a sidecar abandoned by the road. Wear marked issue. Looked battered, but with some grease and willpower, it'll run. Consider it requisitioned.
Larry cracked a smile.
That'll do, sir.
Ellison's eyes softened, but his voice stayed firm.
Listen to me. If this Castel del Monte thing is nothing, you cut your losses and get back here. If it's Zimmerman...
He paused, the weight in his eyes unmistakable.
Bring him home.
The squad saluted.
Yes, sir.
Ellison returned it with crisp finality.
Godspeed, gentlemen.
As they left, the rumble of artillery shook the ground, and now their steps carried a spark of purpose. Extraction. The chair groaned under John's weight, leather straps cutting into his wrists and chest. A tube was suspended over his right shoulder and aimed across his bare collar. Technicians scurried, rolling carts, stringing wires. A cylinder tank was rolled next to him and the tube attached. The mist, John guessed. A steel stand was placed next to his chair. On it, a holder tipped with alligator clips and wire. A few instrument panels with gauges and sensors were positioned on the table adjacent to the chair. John sat still, head bowed, ears straining. He'd learned in Africa that if you looked dumb enough, men assumed you were deaf. Two aides spoke near the canisters, their German clipped and hurried, one inexperienced, asking, the other answering, voice carrying the weary pride of a survivor.
Who is this Wonder Matrone they keep talking about?
The veteran snorted.
Not who, what. Old woman, white hair. We thought she was a village witch when they first reported her. Then she cursed 6 men in one night, trying to rescue children from the camps.
Witch?
The younger repeated, uneasy.
Not witch, something older. The Thamiche Matrone. She fought like wildfire, threw curses, broke rifles with her hands, transformed men into objects. We took heavy losses before the Oberfuhrer brought her down.
He crossed himself reflexively, then realized, embarrassed, and tucked the gesture into scratching his chin.
And the rod?
She carried it, the stomach conduit, but when we captured her, she discharged it, like bleeding a battery. The doctor had planned to use her to charge it, but she drained even her body, bringing her to the brink of mortality. The conduit is inert now, a stick of carved bone, useless. The only way to revive it is to feed it raw stomach current.
His eyes slid toward John in the chair.
From him.
The recruit hesitated.
And the phrase, the code to unlock it?
The older aide spat on the stones.
She refuses. Days of questioning. Weeks. Nothing. She calls us carrion eaters. Swears we'll choke on it. But no matter. Once the rod is charged, the matrone will speak whether she wills it or not.
They moved off to fetch protective goggles. John kept his face slack, staring at the floor, but inside his mind burned. Old woman, prison, discharged conduit, each word lodged like a nail. Suddenly the motion all ceased at once when Dr. Ryder entered, carrying a small black case, narrow enough to contain a pen, but much longer. The SS members watched with wide, reverent eyes. Ryder didn't so much carry it as bear it. gloved hands, steady and careful. John leaned in curiously, trying to keep the sickly feeling in his stomach at bay. Dr. Ryder set the box on the table and opened the lid and lifted out a white stick. John leaned back. The doctor bore the rod to the stand and carefully mounted it in the alligator clips. John now had a closer look. It looked like ivory and had a pretty pearlescent sheen. Is that a wand? John wondered. The bustle returned again, but only to conclude what they were doing. Ryder stepped forward, khakis and white shirt spotless against the soot-dark stone. He gestured, and an aide clipped wires to John's index fingers. The clamps bit into his flesh, making him flinch. John licked his lips, his voice hoarse.
What the heck is this?
Ryder tilted his head, tone almost indulgent.
Simple. You are the battery. This.
He laid one hand on the wand's shaft with a reverence that made his technicians avert their eyes.
Is the vessel.
John's mouth tightened.
What does it do?
Ryder didn't answer. His smile was slightly sardonic. One of the SS men handed out tinted goggles. They donned them with the air of acolytes preparing for an eclipse. John tried to grin, forcing out bravado.
I'm not going to explode, am I?
No one laughed. John swallowed. An aide turned the valve on the gas cylinder. Acrid vapor spilled across John's chest like winter breath. It ignited at once, not in flickers, but in a steady, impossible blue flame that cast sharp shadows across the chamber walls. The aides leaned in, murmuring figures, adjusting dials on the panels. Ryder stepped closer.
Proceed.
A switch was thrown with a heavy clack. The room seemed to contract. Then the wand lit, not with flame, but with appetite. It began to draw. The reaction was not gradual. It was violent. Every gauge on the panel jumped at once. Needles struck their limits and trembled. One dial cracked beneath the pressure. The air itself thickened, as though the chamber had sunk below sea level. Gooseflesh tore across John's body in a visible ripple. His breath hitched. Then the current hit him fully. Every nerve was hit with pins and needles. His back arched against the restraints. Every joint locked. The sensation was no longer needles. It was compression, as though something immense had seized him from within and was pulling through his bones. The lights dimmed. Somewhere behind them, a fuse blew with a sharp pop. A bank of instruments went dead. The wand brightened into a piercing white light. A wave of frost traced the concrete floor beneath John's chair. Ryder did not step back. He watched the readings climb past projected tolerances.
Increase containment,
he said calmly. The aides scrambled. John's scream tore loose, not long, but absolute. The blazing aura that clung to him streamed into the wires in thick, visible currents. The wand absorbed it all. For a moment, the chamber felt suspended, as if gravity itself had shifted. Then it stopped. Silence crashed down. The gauges flattened. The air smelled scorched. A hairline crack ran along the concrete near the base of the rig. John's head sagged forward, unconscious. The blue fire faded from his body until only motes whizzed faintly in the fog before the canister ran out. The abruptness froze the room. Even Ryder blinked, unsettled. Slowly, he stepped forward, unfastened the clips, and lifted the wand from its stand. It looked ordinary again, a polished stick, yet a faint buzz tickled beneath his fingers like static. He crated it swiftly, latching the case as if afraid it might discharge again.
Sir!
An aide gasped. He had bent close to John, then recoiled.
Come and see Hessen.
Come and see. Ryder frowned and seized John's chin, tilting the head up. His eyes widened. The soldier in the chair was no longer flesh. His face was smooth-grained wood, lips carved into a simple line. His facial features softened, making him look 10 years younger. His eyebrows were painted on. Simple painted lines marked closed eyes. Ryder released him, the head dropping forward with a hollow clack against his chest. He stared.
Incredible. The man has become a thing.
No explanation presented itself. His research, his diagrams, all fell short of this. A runner burst in, snapping a salute.
Oberfiel, the Allies are pressing from the west. We cannot hold this position.
Ryder's jaw set. He glanced once more at the wooden figure slumped in the chair, then turned away.
Pack the wand, leave the rest.
The chamber filled with activity as relics were gathered, papers stuffed into crates, gear torn from walls. Boots thundered, cases slammed shut. Ryder stood over John one more time, the mystery before him clawing at his mind. An aide approached.
Do you want us to load him?
Nein, there is no time. And he is now the one inert. Just a dead piece of wood.
Within minutes, the SS were gone, their convoy grinding down the slope. Silence reclaimed Castel del Monte. John remained alone in the chair, wooden hands slack on the rest. A relic abandoned and waiting.